protester is a leader of that protest. Ask, the problem of insecurity, does it exist? The answer is yes. The problem of hunger, does it exist? The answer is yes. Of economic hardship, does it exist? The answer is yes. The government changed the national anthem just recently, but the national anthem on the street has not changed. It is that of hunger, insecurity, and poverty in the midst of abundance. Attempt to arrest or harass or intimidate protesters will not be accepted by us. We want to make our demands clear. Of course, we've explained some of these things before now, but to get it clear, the first demand we are making is that the government should not just tell us about sacrifice and patience. They must also demonstrate it from their hand, which is why we are stating clearly as our first demand that if the government is truly responsible or ready to initiate discussion with Nigerian youth, the first step should be that all political office holders, both elected and appointed, must be placed on the same salary structure, salary scheme with Nigerian workers. We don't want a society where workers will be subjected to 70,000 naira minimum wage, and people who are just meant to work for 4 years, either elected or appointed, will be going home with millions and billions of naira in their account. We feel that one of the problems we have is that Nigerian people, those who claim to be leading us, and people who are being led, will live in a sharply different economic reality. It is the reality of an economic system where Nigerians have to go to hospitals that are not well equipped, while our leaders have to fly to America, Dubai or so for medical tourism, which is why we are making this as the first point of call, that all both elected and appointed political officers must be placed in the same salary structure with Nigerian workers. And secondly, we identified that the increment in fuel price and tariff of electricity is one of the major factors that led to the decline in the economic condition of Nigerian masses. And we are calling for the reversal of all of the increment that have been carried out since the emergence of the Tinubu administration. Therefore, we are demanding that fuel price and electricity tariff to be returned back to the price it was before May 29, 2023. And again, we reject the proposed or the recently announced minimum wage of 70,000 naira for Nigerian workers. We believe that, based on calculation, even from the labor leaders themselves, who have calculated that for Nigerian workers to survive, we need to earn at least 615,000 naira in a month. And also refer to the World Bank speculation that as far back as 2022, that the extreme poverty line is $2.15, which will mean that in Nigeria of today, 3,000 naira per day for someone who can be categorized to be someone who is extremely poor. And there's no justification why Nigerian workers should be in that category, which is why we feel that the 70,000 naira that was passed recently is grossly inadequate and insufficient for Nigerian workers to live. Therefore, we are demanding that it should be reviewed and to a sum not less than 250,000 naira for Nigerian workers. And also, we are demanding for a progressive taxation system where the poor people do not have to pay for the enjoyment of the wealthy people. A taxation system that will take into account the inequality and wealth gap between the rich and the poor. Also, we note that within the last 1 year, essentially since the Tinubu government announced the student loan scheme, which we have expressed that this scheme itself is nothing but an attempt to turn Nigerian students into debtors. And we state clearly that the Nigerian state has enough resources to ensure that Nigerians get education that is quality, affordable, and free. We have lived in this same Nigeria where many of the leaders today benefited from a free education system, and for which even included free food given to Nigerian students at a point. I mean, that was even at the point where the major source of revenue of Nigeria was not even as large as it is today. So that there's no reason why Nigerians should become debtors just because they want to benefit from education. And we noted that recently all the major universities, polytechnic and colleges, including the unity schools, have increased their school fees astronomically, exorbitantly, and they are calling for total reversal of all of the fees that have been increased from Uniben to OAU to Unilag to polytechnics in Nasarawa and everywhere that has been increased. They are demanding for immediate reversal of all fees that have been increased within the last 1 year. And we also take note of the oil and gas sector, that despite talks from the government over the years, despite budgeting billions of naira for the refineries that they claim they want to make functional, what is obtainable today is that none of these refineries, despite getting billions yearly, is working. So that we are demanding that all of our public refineries should be fixed and made functional. And we are also demanding that the process of building new ones should also commence. Of course, today there are talks around the Dangote refinery, and what we are stating is that the Nigerian government have not neglected our public refineries over the years. There won't be need for us to rely on Dangote, who is all out to make profit out of our common resources. And we have seen examples of this even in other aspects of the economy which has been placed in the hands of private profiteers. So we are demanding that our own public refineries should be made functional and building on new ones should commence. And we also state that despite after 4 years the NSAS protest, we still have many of the youth who were arrested during that protest, and even after that protest, many are still languishing in different prisons today in Nigeria. Many who lost grossly part of their body or even their economic life due to during that process have not been compensated. And we also take note, recently the ECOWAS Court of Justice claimed that found the Nigerian government guilty of gross human rights abuses during the NSAS protest. We will take this cause serious and continue to demand that all those officers and those who are complicit in the attack, killing of protesters during the NSAS protest, especially the Lekki massacre, we need to bring them to justice. So we are still demanding for justice for the NSAS protest. And we are also making this call to demand that during, before, or after the protest that has been declared to start on August 1st, no protesters should be arrested, attacked, or harassed by any of the security operatives. What we are demanding for is an end to bad governance, not an end to our life, not an end to our freedom. So on this note, we also want to demand, aside the national crisis we have, even in Abuja here, there are millions of issues affecting residents and workers residing in Abuja. And our first demand is that we demand an immediate cessation of all demolition that displace families and communities without adequate compensation. We believe that development should not kill the well-being of Nigerians. For you cannot displace thousands of people without providing alternative accommodation for them temporarily within the period you want to use or develop that land for. Because the problem you have is that people have to go into streets, become emergency root blocks, become thieves and cause another social crisis for us. A serious and responsible government must have such insights if there's need to demolish a place. It must be to first discuss democratically with the residents who will be the major people that will be affected from that demolition, and give them an alternative accommodation both for those who are living or engaging in economic activities in that area, and ensure that when these projects are completed, these persons are also returned back to their original state. Because what we've had in recent period is that once you develop a place, people who are living there before will not be able to afford the cost of procuring other house or even shops in that place before. Because we've seen different examples where lands are hijacked to build estates where they have to pay billions of naira to acquire, and Nigerian workers are not opportune to get some of these. Demolitions should be stopped, and where there is need for building of new structures, it should be built with the aim of making it affordable to workers and residents in Abuja. We also demand strict regulation to control rent increases and prevent exploitation practices by landlords. Housing should be affordable and accessible to all, not the luxury for the few. And we state this with a clear belief that housing itself is a right. Nigerian workers, youth deserve to live under comfortable and conducive environments, so that the government itself should not leave housing sector in the hands of developers, estates, and profiteers who are all out to make profits. Nigerians themselves, the housing sector, must see how they build houses that can accommodate Nigerian workers, Nigerian youth. Houses that will be affordable and accessible to Nigerians. We demand the utilization and repurposing of the numerous empty estates scattered around Abuja to provide housing for those in need. These properties should be used to alleviate homelessness and improve living conditions for all residents. People who are conversant with Abuja note that today we have many estates unoccupied, empty, because people who want to be living there cannot afford what it takes to live in these places. So we are demanding that these estates should be repurposed and given to Nigerian workers who are in need of such facilities. Also, we demand the reduction or elimination of the heavy taxes imposed on informal workers who are already struggling to make ends meet. These workers are the backbone of our local economy and deserve fair treatment and support. These are the demands that we are making from the Nigerian government, and we hope to drive home these demands by calling on Nigerian youth not to be scared. Nigeria belongs to all of us. Nigerians must not be scared of coming out to protest. So we are enjoining Nigerians to come out on August 1st as the point of protest which we are going to make public very soon, to come and exercise their democratic rights on August 1 and beyond. We are also using this opportunity to call on the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC not to become onlookers in this protest. We are demanding that NSC and TUC must also give support to this protest and back it up with a nationwide strike action coupled with this protest that we are demanding. So we are calling on NSC and TUC to demand and call for general strike action in Nigeria.
We must state clearly that protest is not just a democratic right. Protest is also a democratic thing in itself. And so, from those of us who are here, personally, I have a history of 10 years protesting as an activist in Nigeria. And that means that if we are protesting, our culture is that a protest is a democratic place. A protest is a place where the people converge and have a congress of themselves, of the masses within themselves. And in that democratic setup, what we use that democratic setup is not just to address the concerns of the protest, it's to also look at the conduct of the protest, to ensure that when we democratically are together, we can fish out if anybody has been sent into our midst That is the culture of a protest. That's the proper culture of a protest. A proper protest should have a congress in it of the people coming together and discussing. It is in that discussion that we detect if there are any security threats to us. The second question about the fact that Tinubu himself was a protester at some point. Interestingly, we have videos already online where Tinubu was actually protesting against fuel subsidy removal. So it is very, 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 very wrong of an elderly person. It is in Yoruba culture, an elderly person should not be lying. And so it is a lie that protest is not our right. And so if Tinubu can protest, we can also protest, because he protested as part of the democratic process. And if possible, if Nigerians are protesting, if they decide that Tinubu should join their protest, no problem. But it is best that if anybody in the ruling class, in the political elite, wants to participate in this kind of protest, they should first go and heed to the demands of the protests. Because if they don't heed the demands of the protest and join protesters, we cannot guarantee democracy. The last thing, the demands of our protest has been read out. But the main point is that all of the policies, the anti-people policies that Tinubu has rolled out since May 2019 to be all over the country. Thank you.